Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics. My next special guest is Mr. Blake McCarthy. He is the creator, writer of Territory. Blake, it's a pleasure to meet you, man. Thank you for giving me a little insight into your creation, man. It was a lot of fun. And I know you got some big news to announce with your Kickstarter, but before we jump into that, man, hopefully everything is going well for you this week.
It is. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, we're about 1 week away from launching the next campaign, so I really appreciate you having me on and love talking territory, so I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. Before we jump into the Kickstarter, because that's obviously some big news that we want to tell everybody about, I would love for people just to get to know you a little bit better, Blake. If you could kind of just let us know where this passion for storytelling started in your life, and was there a person in your life that helped kind of drive you toward that passion?
For sure. So Territory is actually my first comic series. It's really the first sort of, creative project I've really worked on. And I don't have like I would say one specific person that's kind of an influence as far as like wanting to tell stories. I grew up reading comics. My dad was big into comics and he would take me and my brother to comic shops when we were kids. So that's definitely sort of where my love of comics originated. And then I kind of fell off of it a little bit until I had my own kids. And then once my son kind of got old enough to start getting into the superheroes and the comics, that kind of brought me back in and made me fall in love with it again. So there, right now, like that's really my biggest inspiration is my kids, and wanting to show them that hey, if you want to do something, if you're passionate about something, you can find a way to do it. And it's been really cool, like getting to do this and getting to share it with them.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I feel like a lot of us grew up reading comic books and then, life takes over and all of a sudden there's this long break and then something draws us back. So I feel like that's extremely relatable, Blake. That's pretty awesome, man. Kids, I'm glad I had kids too, man. Although none of them like comic books for some reason. I'm like the only dork left in the family, man. I don't get it.
Well, it's funny because this is it's been about 4 years working on this now. And so my son was about probably 5 or 6 when he really started kind of getting into it. And so I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I'm getting back into it, and we're sharing this. And like he still likes them okay. And I've got a 6-year-old daughter too. And same, she likes them okay, but I'm definitely the biggest fan of them now that I've kind of gotten back in. Like they're like, yeah, that's cool, Dad. Like we like it, but it's it's definitely more my thing than their thing at this point.
Yeah, that happens, man. That happens. Well, talk to us if you could give us kind of your elevator pitch for Territory. I think that would be pretty cool, so that people that haven't had the opportunity to read it could get to know it a little bit better.
Definitely. So Territory is a post-apocalyptic kaiju comic where people worship the kaiju as gods. And so the main story is it follows Alkia. She's a girl who's part of a tribe that worships the Great Horn, which is this sort of bear kaiju you see behind me here. And it's a coming of age story for her about sort of faith and indoctrination and disillusionment as she's sort of she grows up in this tribe that worships this thing, and then some other kaiju come and it just kind of makes her question everything she's known, her beliefs, and so it's got kaiju action and coming of age and all sorts of fun stuff.
Definitely a lot of action throughout the first four issues that I took a look at, man, which is really exciting, especially if kaiju's your thing, which it is mine. These things are massive, and there's a lot of a lot of blood and guts, man, which I love too, which is awesome. If you have a kaiju in it, that's what you got to have, man, which is pretty cool. But yeah, man, they're walking through broken up cities. They got these little clans, which I don't think they realize there's others outside of themselves until kind of I don't know what issue it was, but man, a lot of things open up and things kind of go sideways, which is really exciting, man. When did this story come about, and when did you start kind of plotting it?
Yeah, so I actually had the idea probably 2 or so, maybe a little bit longer years before I before I really started working on it. Back in college, which was about 12 years ago now, which is crazy. But I kind of did some like screenwriting and stuff like that just for fun. Had a couple buddies that were into it, and then it just never really materialized. I've always been a fan of Godzilla, and so kaiju's always just been something that I've enjoyed. And I knew when I sort of wanted to continue telling stories that I wanted to do a kaiju story. I'm also a big fan of post-apocalyptic worlds, so and there's surprisingly not a lot of like kaiju and post-apocalyptic stories, which they work really well to me. So I thought, okay, that's cool. Like we can do that. And so it was just a couple of years of sort of having this world in my head and kind of the stories. And then, like I said, once I started kind of getting back into the comics with my kids and stuff, that's when I realized like, hey, this is sort of a perfect medium for this. And so it was a story that's been kind of bouncing in my head a little bit. And then once I realized that comics would be a good medium for it, that's when I really started to actually develop it more than just, a concept.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Can you kind of walk us through the process? There's a lot of indie creators out there either getting in for the first time. I think we all have the same kind of struggles. Can you kind of talk about the learning process and how you've navigated that? I mean, you're like a pro now by the time you hit issue 5.
I definitely don't feel like it. I feel like I know a lot more than I did, but it's still crazy how much goes into every project and everyone, I've still learned a ton with this issue and with this upcoming campaign and everything. But going back to the start, yeah, I mean, so like I said, this is my first project, so I was really, really green. I had a little bit of like, a little bit of writing experience from college, but that was all just again just sort of a hobby. It wasn't anything professional or I hadn't taken classes or anything like that. And so a lot of it. So fortunately, the indie comics community has been very welcoming, and I feel like that's the nice thing is there is a lot of good resources and a lot of good people that make themselves available as resources in this community. So I started by just going online, just googling all sorts of stuff. As far as even just like what a comic book script looks like, and then sort of how to incorporate different things, like how to sort of structure the actual script itself, and then also some general kind of story structure type things. And then also I just went on Kickstarter as I realized that this was going to be an independent book. I went on Kickstarter and just kind of started finding campaigns that I thought looked interesting that jumped out to me. Backed those campaigns, read the books, tried to see what they were doing that was working for them. And then also there were some creators who, especially as I started actually writing things and getting art together and backing some of these other campaigns, just reaching out to some creators and saying, hey, this is kind of what I'm working on. I really like your book. And a lot of them were extremely welcoming and, offered advice. And so I think just really kind of connecting with the community. There is a lot of resources out there already. If you go online, if you have a particular question about something specific, you can usually find at least something. But also just starting to connect, find books that you like, find projects that are interested to you, and then reach out to those creators and kind of see, because most people are, it is a small, a pretty small niche community, and so people are pretty tight knit, and everyone wants to see everyone else succeed, so people are very willing to help and to share their wisdom.
That's awesome, man. It is awesome community and very supportive community. Let's take a look. I'm going to pull up on my screen here the actual Kickstarter. You going to walk us through kind of the Kickstarter and what fans could expect in issue 5?
Yeah. um So for those that aren't familiar with territory, it's going to be issue 5, and all so issues 1 through 5 will be available, and that is the complete series. I knew coming in that this was going to be a mini series. I had a definitive beginning and ending that I had in mind when I was coming up with this story, and so this 5 issue mini series is that whole initial story that I kind of had in mind. So this is actually, if you haven't read it before, this is a good time to come in because now you can just get the whole thing at once. So for people who have been, with us for a while, a couple exciting things with issue 5. The first one is this is going to be a 32-page issue. So the previous 4 issues were all 22 pages. This is going to be 32 pages. We had a lot of stuff that we wanted to wrap up and finish strong with, and so we made this one a little bit bigger just to make sure that we could include everything and give that satisfying conclusion that we feel like the series deserves. And then also with this campaign, we really looked back at our previous four campaigns and saw, what are people really enjoying? What type of rewards are they liking? And with this one, we really tried to focus on, so it's sort of a greatest hits of the previous campaigns. So with all the other ones, been experimenting with this, with different things. This one, there's not as much experimenting, but we tried to really focus in on, what people have liked and delivering the best version of that. So rewards that have been popular in the past, trying to create like the most premium, best version of those rewards we can, just so that the people who have, been with us or people who are just joining us are getting sort of the best that we have to offer, what we feel has really resonated with people with Territory as a brand.
That's awesome, man. So as far as issue 5, will this be a collected works like a graphic novel, or will it be a floppy of issue 5 to kind of end the first or the story arc?
So issue 5 is going to be a floppy. So
Yep.
this campaign will be all floppies, so you can get all 5 issues. I'm looking into doing a collected version at some point. With this issue, it'll be 120 pages total of story. So definitely feel like we've got a good amount there. But again, I just haven't ever done a collected issue or a trade or anything. So that's something that I am looking into it possibly doing down the line. But really, wanted to get this issue 5 made. Kickstarter's allowed us to to make continue to make these issues. We've it's been really great. Like we've developed a nice fan base that of people who are excited about the project and reaching out, and so we wanted to make sure that we could get this 5th issue and get the story finished.
That's awesome, man. I mean, we talk about the kaiju that you have behind you. Here's the picture that you'll see, that beautiful spread. I believe, is this issue 1, if I'm not mistaken?
Yep, yeah, this is
Yeah.
sort of the first time you see it, so it's kind of it's
Yeah,
an intro.
massive,
Yeah.
massive, massive. Yeah. So a lot of fun. Obviously, this begins next week. Is it the 24th it starts, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah, launching the
Yep.
24th. So that's Tuesday, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So very exciting, man. Everybody should go over there, type in your email address, and then you will get a notification from Kickstarter that it is live, and then you can jump right over there. Of course, we want to share this as much as possible, Blake. So I'll make sure that we share it across our socials. I know you'll be doing the same thing, and we'll try and get as many of those 90 followers to actually follow through and pick it up, which is a chore in and of itself as a creator. But man, you're off to a great start leading up to a Kickstarter. That's awesome, man. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been great. And it's been great, now that we're kind of at the end and we have sort of these 4 issues. We do have, some people that are excited about it, that have reached out, that have shared, what they're excited for, what their theories are. And so it's been really cool, seeing people get invested in the story, so that we know that we're ending it, and that there's people that are looking forward to it, and we'll hopefully give them a satisfying ending.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You have already, I don't want to take you too far past the Kickstarter. Obviously, that's the focus. But now that you've got this experience, you got this story under your belt. I know we talked a little bit about maybe future stories around territory, but do you have other ideas? Or you're like, man, I just want to take a break. This has been a lot of work. I don't even want to think about the next story. But like, how are you mindset wise when it comes to comic book creating?
Yeah, so this has definitely given me a lot of confidence. Like, being able to finish this series, being able to say we were able to get the whole story told, has been really exciting to know that we're able to finish it. We're able to make everything that we wanted to make and to get it out there. And like I said, and the fact that people have been enjoying it. So I do, I have a couple ideas of potentially where territory could go from here, but I also do have a couple ideas of sort of other projects I think I would want to work on first. So I don't have any, like, I've been focusing on territory the whole time, haven't really started working on anything else, just because I really wanted to make sure that we finish this strong. And especially with it being the first series, wanted to make sure that we did everything we could for this series, made it as best we could, learn as much as we can, so that moving forward with other projects, I feel as prepared as possible. So I do think, I do have a couple other stories I want to work on. Do want to continue to make comic books, but there'll also be a little bit of time, just because it's been so territory focused, that that, kind of have to restart the process over. So it'll be fun, now that I feel like I have at least a little bit of an idea what I'm doing. But it's, I also realize that each project is going to be its own thing, and I still have a lot to learn.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, it looks beautiful. The art looks great. Can you kind of tell us about the team that helped you get to this point, from
Yeah.
art to lettering to all that good stuff?
For sure, because that is definitely one of the biggest things I learned is comics is a very collaborative process. There's no book that's just out there that is just one person. It's this is I think that's what's really cool about it is you do have comics requires a lot of teamwork. It requires a lot of people kind of investing together, working together, and I feel very fortunate that I've had such a great team for this. So we've actually had two artists. The first artist, Chris Sassman, did the art for issues 1 through 3. And then unfortunately, he wasn't able to continue. And so we had Donnie Hadiwajaja, who came in for issue 4, and he'll be finishing issue 5 with us as well. So it was cool. Chris was actually, this was his first kind of big project as well. So it was cool, as a new writer and a new artist, just sort of, kind of growing together, learning together. But I feel very fortunate that, unfortunately, when he wasn't able to continue, Donnie has been able to pick up right where he left off. Donnie's done he's done a lot of work in the past, and he's a very professional artist. And he actually worked with Ichsan and Sori, who is the colorist for the book. And so he's been the colorist on all 5 issues. And I think having him on all 5 has been really key, especially with the artist change, because the colorist does so much as far as like the atmosphere and the feel of the book. And so having him kind of made it so that it didn't feel like there was, a sudden or a drastic change. So it still felt continuous. And Donnie was able to come in with his style, and, uh, he had a good feel for the world of territory, but still able to kind of put his spin on it. So, really fortunate there. And then Marco Della Verde's done the letters. He's been doing it for a long time, does an excellent job. And definitely, a letter is someone that, if you haven't made a comic book before, you're not super familiar with the process. I think you don't really think about it, but once you actually see all the work they do, and how much, of an impact they have on the pacing and how things work, and bringing the dialogue and the panels and sort of blending the words and pictures, which is what makes comics so special. And he's, really, really good at that. And then our editor is Nicole DeAndrea, and she came on with issue 2. We unfortunately didn't hire anyone for issue 1. That's my biggest regret about the whole thing. But she's been with us from issue 2 onwards, and she's really helped get us to this finish line, and keep, 5 issues worth of pacing and story, and really helped a lot of, especially when you have an idea in your head for a couple of years, you start building all these things in your head, and sometimes you lose track of what the actual story is, or how to make it a reality. And so having her has been great, as far as, she understands storytelling and structure, and she's been able to sort of help focus the book and keep it moving, so that it's not just a jumble of cool ideas, but hey, there's an actual story here. And, I think it makes it a lot more accessible to the reader.
That's awesome, man. Well, it definitely comes across in the first 4. Can't wait to read issue 5 to see how this whole thing comes to a close. Congratulations, Blake. I mean, as an indie creator, I could tell you, everybody has great ideas, and then they start getting into it and they realize, man, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Although I think the availability to create a comic book is simpler than it ever has been before. It's still as difficult as it's ever been. And so it takes a lot of, I think, willpower and drive to actually finish what you started. So not too many independent creators get this far, and I think you've done something pretty impressive already.
Well, thank you. And I definitely agree with you. Like, if you are, now is actually a really good time, I think, just because, like you said, there is so much accessible to you.
Yeah,
I mean, social media is nobody's favorite thing, but the good part of it is it does allow for so many connections. There are so many artists and writers and creators out there that are, wanting to do good work and to put stuff out there. But it definitely, it is something where, just learning about how to manage a project overall, and that everything takes time, and that you can have an idea, but the execution of that idea is what really matters. And if you can't communicate that idea effectively with everyone else, it doesn't matter how good the idea is. It's just, no one's going to be interested in it. And so, and that takes a lot of other people, who can help, listen to what it is, and put their spin on it, and bring their ideas in. And once you get everyone sort of working together, and bringing their ideas in together, that's when it really comes to, that's when it becomes real. That's when you're able to actually see something, instead of it just being that concept. And then once you actually see it on the page, and you see it start to develop, that's when I think it really, you get that payoff of the satisfaction of seeing that idea come to life, and knowing that it's out there in the world for other people to see.
That's awesome, man. I couldn't agree with you more, Blake. Can you kind of walk through how people can follow you on social media? And then do you have any plans to be at like Comic Cons where people can meet you in person and maybe pick up the 4 issues? Obviously, they'll be able to probably grab it as rewards without the Kickstarter, but a lot of people like to get their stuff signed and meet the creator. Can you kind of walk us through that?
Yeah. So social media, Twitter and Instagram are going to be kind of the big ones. And it's the same, you tag on both those. Is just going to be at BMC Comics, BMCCOMICS. And then obviously on Kickstarter, if you search Territory, should pop up there. And then Global Comics, you can read the first issues for free over there. So if you're just curious, want to check it out, go over there and you can read the first 3 issues digitally for free. So that's been a really cool, sort of addition. I would like to go to more cons. I have only been to one small one. Next year, I'm hoping, especially hopefully have all 5 issues to be able to go to more. So I live in Colorado, so it'll probably just be local stuff around there, but I don't have any specific plans yet. But hopefully, next year will be sort of the first year that we really go down that road too. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. We'll make sure that we put below the link for the Kickstarter to make it as simple as possible for people to jump over and check it out. And then obviously all your links to your social so that people could follow the process, walking through your Kickstarter, and then anything and everything else that you have planned in the future, people can follow you and probably get the information firsthand as you announce it. But super exciting, Blake. Congratulations again, man. I always love to see and meet a comic creator who has has an idea and they've been able to kind of accomplish that idea and follow through on it, because it's and that's no shame to people who can't do it. It's not easy. And for you to get to that point, man, that's awesome. Congratulations to you and all your fans of Territory. It is an awesome book. So anybody thinking about backing this, you definitely should. The story is pretty awesome. And especially if you like kaiju, which I do, you're really going to love it because there's some badass artwork throughout the entire comic book as well.
Well, thank you. I mean, I will say one of the hardest things as a creator is just getting the word out, getting especially new readers, and it's so, especially I feel like social media, everything's just so fragmented now that it's hard to, find a place where you can really reach out to people. So I really appreciate you, taking the time to have me on and talking about it. And yeah, I hope the people are enjoying it, and I'm excited to, see the response now that it's all done.
That's awesome, Blake. Well, congratulations, man. I'll be sitting back watching you and your success. If you ever need to come back on again or desire to come back on again, you're always welcome. But it was a pleasure talking to you today. Again, thank you for the sneak preview of the first 4 issues. I had a blast reading them and cannot wait to get my hands on issue 5.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, thank you for having me on, and I'd love to do it again.
All right, sounds good, Blake. Until next time, my friend, I hope you have a great rest of your week. And everybody, look below, hit that Kickstarter link, and get over there and back Territory. You will not be disappointed. All right, man. Thanks, Blake.
Yeah, thank you.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.